finding things, in vents, under beds, and all sorts. It's intensive work. And so if I didn't have that mantra of cleaning with joy, I don't think I would have been able to do the job as effectively and efficiently as I did and receive the 5-star ratings that I did. And, having clients then come back home and children say, oh, I haven't seen this toy in forever, and want to share that with me is really what carried me through in the first portion of my journey. Social service. It's in the social service sector. And I spent about 15 years working and volunteering in that sector as a housing and community development worker. I worked with Wood Green Community Services, Toronto Community Housing, United Way. I had a strong focus on food sovereignty and food justice. So I worked with Second Harvest and the Daily Bread Food Bank. I co-facilitated tenant advisory committees that would inform at board level and help to establish some really beautiful community gardens that fed back into congregate dining programs within the community. So that's my past. And, working with the vulnerable sector and also being a person of lived experience from the vulnerable sector, all of this is a part of me and is a part of the story. I would say it was maybe 2016, things kind of shifted for us. We lost my partner suddenly to cancer. It was 6.5 weeks and he was gone. We were told we had a year, and then that went to 6 months, and then 3 months, and then he was unfortunately taken from us. And I took a year off because I was really struggling. I didn't know what to do. Our son had just turned 1 year old. And so here I was, now a single mom living with this child. And I didn't know what to do. And I was in such a weighed down mental state that I knew if I went back into the work that I was doing, it was going to kill me. I wasn't going to make it out. And that's a whole other story for another time, because that story is kind of grounded in mental health and my 29 years of living with mental health disorders. So we'll reserve that for another time. But for this conversation today, kind of fast forwarding through after losing my partner, I came across this mindset coach. And here's a plug, but I love this person. Really did change my life. And, many of you who are listening may already know Noel Walrond of My Dreams Work. And he was the first individual to introduce me in a formal way to the power of the mind through his programs. And, I didn't have the money to take his program. At the time, I was living on welfare. And so I had about $50 to my name. And so we sat down that weekend after I went to one of his open houses, and it was just like, okay, well, are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? Like, what do you want for yourself? And I knew that this was something that I needed for myself. And him being Trinidadian also was just like, it lended itself to the story too. It was like my ancestors were coming up and they were like, come on, little one, we're going to take you and we're going to heal you. And so I burnt the boats. I put down that $50 and I said, okay, I'm just going to have to make it happen because now I've committed to it. And, God is so good. He will rise up to meet you in any challenge, and so I ended up starting to clean homes, and I cleaned homes and was able to pay off Noel's program way faster than I thought I would. And the other side of that was he taught me how to serve with joy. And so in every home that I would go into, although there were days where I was tired, and the work is labor intense, when you're cleaning somebody's home, right to left, top to bottom, and nothing is missed. Every item inside of that home is picked up, moved aside, cleaned in behind. That item that you pick up, you clean and dust, wet, wipe, clean, dust down that item, and then place it back. You're also styling that space, restyling it as you go through that space. Finding things, in vents, under beds, and all sorts. it's intensive work. And so if I didn't have that mantra of cleaning with joy, I don't think I would have been able to do the job as effectively and efficiently as I did and receive the 5-star ratings that I did. And, you know, having clients then come back home and children say, oh, I haven't seen this toy in forever, and want to share that with me is really what carried me through in the first portion of my journey.
That is so powerful. And I know that you went from doing it, you know, for a company and then for yourself and then building a team around that. So do you want to talk to us a bit about how the company grew and the people? I think the approach that you took to develop your business was really beneficial to the community at large.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, when I started, I knew I wanted to support other women who were like me. You know, I wanted to develop a team of people who were, you know, hardworking, driven, wanted more for themselves. And so, you know, I started cleaning and I had my system down. I just want to kind of take a step back because when I started, I didn't know about a business plan. Like I knew about a business plan, but you know, kind of when you start, you just start. Like it's like sink or swim. People like put your little floaties on if you have to, but let's go. Like people need you. And so I don't say this to say that this journey has been, you know, seamless and linear and very easy. It's been this kind of back and forth. Oops, I forgot to do that. Let me go back and do it. Oh my goodness, that cost me a fortune. Now I learned a lesson, you know? And so, and that the hiring process has been one of those things, right? It's been a challenge, you know, because what values are you hiring based on? You know, what segment are you targeting? Why are you targeting that segment? Like there's all of these questions to account for. And it's one thing to want to go out and to support people, but why are you supporting them? Needs to be at the foundation of everything that we do. And so, but anyways, it was a pleasure to, you know, at the height of our hiring run, to have hired 7 women and to pay them above a living wage. So we paid them $20 an hour. And we did volunteer jobs with a social initiative called Ubuntu at the Massey, the Massey Golding Estate, which is just over here in Scarborough, and such a beautiful space and such a beautiful program, Ubuntu, led by Gigi, a woman in our community and a mother of 4, just such a beautiful soul. And so, you know, like I really wanted to just kind of raise people up with me. I didn't want to come up and not bring anybody with me. And I think that that's a core component of servant leadership is how can I serve you? You know, even in this leadership capacity, you know, how can I, you know, lend this space so that you can also develop some leadership skills as well. For me, I've now had to go back to the drawing board with that. You know, COVID hit,
Yes.
and
We'll talk about COVID in a little bit.
oh, beautiful. Okay. I will just that
No,
one.
hey, no worries. But no, that servant leadership, the story of, building with purpose, building with values at the core. And the truth is, entrepreneurship, when we start off, and we just before we got on, we were talking about the book that I recommend, Michael Gerber's ebook, The
Get that book.
Entrepreneurial Myth. Get that book. Yes. And so the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, really talks about, someone getting an entrepreneurial seizure. You were doing it for the man or the woman, and you decide, listen, I can do this for myself. But oftentimes, many entrepreneurs never go to school to get that business acumen developed and built. So when you start off, you are the visionary. You have that amazing idea of how you're going to change the world. And I heard that in your story. You are the person who's managing all the operations, the flow, okay, the jobs, looking at sales, looking at all of these things. And then you also were the person that was doing it. And he calls that person the technician, the doer, which is amazing. But if you're talking about growing and scaling and moving and reaching more people for greater impact, you have to think about the team. And you talked about the HR needs, making sure that value alignment is there. It's with people we build great empires. And I think from the foundation, and really you said, what was important to you is making sure that they had above a living wage. That's really powerful. And so, you know, when I listen to your story that you shared thus far, really hearing adversity and really being able to navigate and grow through that, really starting something new and exciting, an entrepreneurial pathway, and seeing the highs, the peaks, yeah, the peaks, the top, and then the valleys. Sometimes it's like high and crash. But yeah, it goes up fast. But the cool thing that you did mention, and I too have gone through Noel's program, so shout out to Noel, fellow Trinidadian. So we have Noel Trini, myself a Trini, Jaycel Trini, you know, you having a little Canadian Trini party here. We're liming. If you're not familiar with that terminology, come back to me and I can fill you in, but the word is liming. But yeah, really a chance to see that growth and that powerful story that you have and you shared thus far. And we know, and I'm talking about it now, COVID, right? COVID has changed the world dramatically. Some businesses have done amazing and well, but others have had to shut their door permanently, had to reimagine, reinvent who they are, and how they operate, how they're going to survive, how they're going to pay their bills. You talked about mental health. Mental health has affected so many, like the rate at mental health, and they say entrepreneurs actually have the highest rates of mental health because remember, we're always in this kind of like space of the unknown, you know, thinking about how we're meeting payroll, thinking of how we're feeding our families, all of these things. So that added stress and pressure. But if you could just talk to us a little bit about your COVID journey with your business and how you have, you know, how you've come through where you are today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, oh, I have to say the pivot really wasn't that challenging for me. Deciding on what I was going to do was already laid. The foundation for that was already laid. You know, and I think it has to do with my nature. I'm the type of person who's always wanting to learn more. So even, you know, 2018, 2019, while learning how to run a business, and the ups and downs therein, I was also getting other certifications. So I became certified as a hypnotherapist. I became certified as a clutter coach. I lended my time to, and this is very important, folks, if you're out there and you want to learn in a space, lend yourself to your mentors. Like, give back that time. Sometimes you don't get to grow the way that you want to because you're offering your time to someone else, but do that because it's not for the big payoff. It's for the, I don't even know. It's just do it, please. You know, don't think that we can do it all on our own. And so what I was doing is I was serving as an accountability leader in Noel's program in the virtual sphere for 8 months prior to the lockdowns of COVID. You know, had Noel not launched this program when he did, I wouldn't have had that platform, you know, and had he had not been my mentor, I mean, it's just, you know, the domino effect. But so when COVID lockdowns came about, I had the clutter clearing in my back pocket. My grandmother called it the tool belt. You know, make sure you have a couple notches on your tool belt just in case you need them. And I had the hypnotherapy on my tool belt, and I had the experience of conducting, you know, workshops and accountability leadership groups within this format, the Zoom platform. So, you know, it just took maybe a week or so of just brainstorming. Okay, how can I make this work? What do I need to make this work? And how can I sell this? You know, like, are there people who even need this type of service? And what are some of the risks if I was to go into this type of service? You know, how am I going to convince people of this new format when it's so new for everyone, right? And that it actually works. And, you know, so there was a lot of stuff going on in the background, and thankfully, you know, it was positioned well. So the pivot wasn't too difficult. But if we're going to talk about the stress and the mental health alignment, I felt incredibly overwhelmed. And I'm going to touch a little bit on, I come from 29 long years of mental health disorders, like major depressive disorder. I was 9 years old the first time I considered taking my life. I don't even remember why, but I just remember that I had that experience in the tub, and I was going to go, and something said, get up. And so I got up. But, 29 long years of major depressive disorder, borderline agoraphobia, major anxiety, to be here inside of this space with these high levels of stress. I had to keep checking in with my therapist. Like, I feel like maybe the depression is coming back. And she would sit down with me and she would say, okay, we would go through it step by step, what I was feeling, what I was experiencing, what were the circumstances, and then kind of scale it out. And I realized that it was everyday stress. And sometimes we can get so caught up in our depression. And please forgive me, I don't mean to minimize it by any means at all, in any way, shape, or form. But sometimes we can get so caught up in our depression that, the smallest of everyday stressors can feel like we're spiraling back down again. And so therapy really helped me to make that discernment, to be able to hone in on being able to identify what was normal every day and what I could manage versus what I actually needed to sit down and have a session for. And so we strategized some safety protocol, I guess we could call those, resources that I would go to if I felt the high stress. So reaching out and connecting with a friend, taking the whole half a day off and just booking that time for myself, not to read anything for business or just spend time with the kids and love on me, surround myself with additional supports like mindfulness groups, meditation groups, if that's something that you're into. I do devotional groups every morning, and I meet with that group 4 times a week. So the spiritual component of that and understanding the word and just kind of, whatever your spiritual foundation is, leaning into that supported me. So COVID was a challenge, but we built in supports to help mitigate any risk. So that would be my word of encouragement for anyone listening in on this call today, is to really plan for your mental wellness, because we need you. We need your story, and we need the value that you bring to this world. Whatever your healing journey is, that's the thing that you do. That's the thing that you come out and you offer the world and tell your story.
Hey, I love it. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Powerful, plan for your mental health, mental wellness. It resonates deeply with me. And I can share, just the tail end of 2020 got really I think that everyday stress, plus the stress of COVID, plus the stress of running a business, plus the stress of just life in general, and feeling like, man, like I'm about to die. Like, and one thing that I realized after doing so many like tests and trying to figure out what's wrong with me, it was just, I needed to do self-care, and realizing that portion of planning for what makes me happy. How do I take time out? How do I process the information? How do I learn from this experience? I wasn't doing it. I was in that rat race, just doing the same thing day in, day out. And the sad thing is, because of COVID, you're not leaving your home to drive to work and then come to your computer. Your computer is in front of you all day. So I found myself at the computer for 16, 20 hours a day, not sitting, just working, and eating at the computer, and just bad habits, and those little may start off one day and then you see yourself spiraling next day and it just becomes a habit. But when you get back to that consciousness, it's like and I got to that place. I was like, no, I'm taking 2 weeks off for me to reconnect with my values, to reconnect to what's important to me. And you mentioned that word, mitigating the risk. As entrepreneurs, we're oftentimes seen as risk takers, but we are oftentimes thinking about ways to mitigate that risk. And so applying that to your life as well. So Jaycel, I want to just, talk to us about clutter. You talk about, the impacts of clutter on your it could be on your physical health, but I know you talk about mental health as well. So tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you again. Clutter, what is clutter? I'm really excited because I have this project that I'm working on right now, and it's called Dear Clutter. And it's our story, our experiences with clutter. And so from kind of a professional, practical lens, clutter is essentially anything that you're not using regularly, right? Which is defined differently by different people in the house, right? And I say that because if we're living with mom or we're living with our husbands and our children, what we see as clutter might not be what they see as clutter, right? And so that's something that's a key point to take into consideration when we are clutter clearing, and how we're helping to, kind of integrate this into our new family dynamic, into our family practice. Anything that's broken, it's if there's no plan to fix it, it's definitely clutter. You want to ask yourself, and I kind of lean into the Marie Kondo. Some people have said, Jay, you're like the Black Marie Kondo, and I'll take it. I will absolutely take it, because I believe in, energy, and that it is in everything, and some may call that God, and that's fine with me. But the idea is that, it's not so much just about, does it spark, does it bring you joy? Are you happy with it? Because when I did that method, I was like, oh, I like this, and I like this, and I like that, and I like this, and oh, I just love it. But how does it, yes, I love it, but why do I love it? And so one of the things that's really important to factor in is, how does it really, what does it do to your energy? Do you love it because of something in vanity, because everybody else should tell you that you love it, but it was really expensive and it weighs on your mind and on your budget, and it, on some level makes you feel guilty for having it, because you've taken away from, your family expenses or your family's future by having it, by owning it. And so that is a form of clutter. And thank you for bringing up, the emotional aspect of clutter, because that matters. And so, those are the, I would say, the main kind of areas of, I'm just looking here. Oh, right. And of course, the last one is, what's clutter in one area of your home isn't necessarily clutter in another area. So that would be the last component to defining clutter, right? Maybe you have a picture of your parents or your grandparents on your bedside table, which I just would say, don't have a picture of your parents or your children inside of your intimate spaces. It's just, you don't want them watching you do your things, So just, that would be something that maybe you would move to a living room or a common area, and you'll feel immediately the energy shift in that, kind of reclaiming space for yourself, that intimate space for yourself and your partner maybe.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. So let's take it from an entrepreneurial perspective. I like to talk to people about, as an entrepreneur, you need to be clear about three things. What is the problem that you're solving? Who has that problem, and what is your solution? So let's talk, and you define what is clutter, but why, and you talked about some of the problem points that clutter brings to us. But could you just, in a simple way, tell us the problem that clutter creates for people, or the problem that people have with clutter?
Yeah, for the most, everybody comes from a different walk of life. So, to say that there's only one issue that people have we can't. kind of narrow it down in that way. But I would say if I were to generalize it, it would be a sense of overwhelm. You know, people are coming in and they're saying, I don't know what to do with this. I don't even know where to begin. You know, I know that I have to start because I know that it's affecting me. It's affecting my productivity. It's affecting my stressor levels. It's affecting how I function inside of my family and how my family functions with me. Our relationship is strained. You know, they're saying, I can't think straight. I have too much going on in my brain and I can't sort this all out. So that feeling of overwhelm seems to be the overarching theme that people come to me with. And, you know, these are busy entrepreneurs, like these are busy people, you know, with multifaceted lives. You know, they have children, they're maybe taking care of their parents, or, you know, and their parents are, you know, kind of living in these, you know, bubbles, these silos by themselves. And so they have to socialize not just themselves, but their parents in a safe way, you know, during this COVID lockdown. And so, you know, we're already under a lot of pressure. And so just to have somebody come in and say, you know what, here, let me hold you accountable. Let me hold your hand. Let me walk you through this process where it's not just another Zoom call where we're jumping on and it's a meeting, but we're actually getting some work done. We're being efficient, and the effects of this work are near immediate. What's beautiful about clutter clearing is that we don't even have to be touching anything to do the clutter clearing work. I do this beautiful exercise in my workshops where I lead people through a walkthrough. And it's like a guided meditation, but I lead you to the doorway of a space inside of your home. And I ask you to kind of just survey that space. And we do this energy check inside of that room. So, I mean, it's effective work and it's beautiful work. And if any of those topics that I talked on, you know, are something that you're dealing with, then I would say reach out for help. You know, if I may continue on just a little bit more, you know, the things that we have inside of our home are directly connected to our identity. They're an extension of us, right? So everything that we have it for a reason, whether somebody gave it to us, made it for us, we inherited it. And sometimes the story that's associated with that particular relationship, that object in our home, perpetuates, you know, harmful narratives. And so it may be challenging to kind of lean into that work and release those items. But it's vital, because if you're feeling blockages, let's just say in your self-image, and your closet is just stacked, packed, you know, just with a whole bunch of stuff, and you can't really make sense of it, clearing out your closet, it has a direct correlation to our self-image. When I work with clients in their kitchen, oftentimes immediately after they're, you know, booking an appointment with their nutritionist, or they're getting on the fitness wheel and they're targeting their fitness goals. And that's because the kitchen has a direct correlation to health, right? And to nutrition, because that's where we store our food, obviously. The bathroom is all about rejuvenation. You know, so people who tend to work on their master bathrooms, oftentimes we find them then joining like these yoga and meditative, you know, where they're clearing, you know, the kind of washing those things away. Or they tend to, you know, enhance their self-care regime. So they may go out and get some more treats for their skincare, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
No.
really beautiful, holistic practice, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. And in there, I got some nuggets of your ideal personas that you work with. So yeah, I don't know if you want to just tell the viewers, to share with myself, who typically shows up at your door? Who are you looking to work forward with?
People tend to find me, to be honest. So when you say who shows up at my door, it's a real thing. You know, I often find that they work in the social service sector. You know, they're artists for sure. They're spiritual people who are interested in self-actualization. You know, the books that they might read, or you know, or people that they may follow, or people like Oprah and Michelle Obama. They may follow people like they understand deeper social issues. So Bell Hooks might be somebody that they know the works of. Zig Ziglar. I'm trying to think of all of the people. Oh my goodness.
Personal development arena, I guess.
Yeah, Deepak Chopra, and like they get like really like they're deeper types of people when it comes to like spirituality and philosophy and that sort of thing. And you know, they're women. They tend to be mostly women, and I would say, you know, they're middle-aged women. And like I said, you know, they tend to have the responsibility of the family, of the home and the children, and of their parents, you know. So it's yeah, I love my people.
That's
So
awesome. At E4X, I tell them every time I'm on the call with them or they're in the space, I'm like, I love you, lots of love, you know. And as an entrepreneur, you talked about servant leadership, and it really comes from serving with joy, as you talked about that, right? Being able to lead with compassion and empathy and really understand their pain points and delivering a solution so impactful. I know we're just coming down to the time that we have together. How could people get in touch with you?
oh my goodness, it's super simple. People ask me what the name of my business is all the time, and I tell them it's Love Cleaning, and they're like, love cleaning residential. And it's because I love cleaning. Like I just love. So it's lovecleaning.ca. And you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at lovecleaning.gta. And you can find me first name, last name, Jaycel Murphy on Facebook, and as well on LinkedIn. And then lastly, if there's anyone out there who's on Clubhouse, I'm really deeply integrated in the organizing and decluttering groups there. And so you'll oftentimes find me on a stage offering as much value as I possibly can. So if you are on Clubhouse, please come on over, look for my name. I'm there 2 or 3 times a week. I'm like 2 days in, so I'm still trying to figure out what my schedule is going to be like there, and get a room up, coordinating that with some individuals, some pretty high profile individuals there as well. So I'm really looking forward to that work and kind of bringing this to the world on a larger stage.
Awesome. So I 2 final questions for you. Okay, 1, a tip that you want to share with an entrepreneur.
Gosh, please. Okay, it's twofold. Go for it, right? Like do it. Get out of your own head and just do it. Take action, right? You can sit there, you can plan all day, you can talk about it with your friends, with your family till you're blue in the face. But if you're not taking action, it is not happening. But in that, set the foundation. Understand why you're doing it. And all of that paperwork that seems labor intensive, like a business plan and, meeting with an accountant and a legal and all, do it.
12:15 p.m. Mason, it's time to learn more about numbers with Ms. Morrow. Get ready to pay attention. You're doing such a great job today.
I love AI. I just love it. This is great.
That's awesome. Is that Alexa?
That is Google Mini Home. But getting onto the Alexa soon. Look for me on Blueprints. But
that's powerful. Like having those cues in your life as well to keep you accountable. Hey, Mason, get to work.
He's 5, and you know what? I'm at home with a little 5-year-old, and we're doing this online learning. So you have to find ways to take things off of your schedule. And if you're, so this is a perfect tip for entrepreneurs and moms, single parents, I should say. If you've got, 2 schedules that you're working within, use the technology that we have so readily in our hands and assign it to them. Why should we have to tell our kids when to jump on their calls?
Hey, that is so awesome. So you got 2 tips there, 2 for 1. And then the second thing, I developed this word. I want to make it live and global, Epical. So fun and epic adventures, great or small experience, right? So Epical. Can you share with us a Epical self-care, self-loving tip?
Oh my gosh. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. I know it doesn't seem like it's fun, but when I began to see the child in people and the humanity of people, you know, we are just doing the best we can with what we have, you know, and I've had some issues and experiences with abandonment and all of it. And, you know, if I can be candid, I miss people that used to be in my life deeply inside of me, you know. But when we just understand that people are just people experiencing life, it makes it so much easier just to go, man, like, do you, and I'm praying for you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And for me, that has been epic. That experience of forgiveness in that real way. And please don't, I'm not being like fruity or, you know, just sugarcoating this, or this has been the epic fun experience practice for me, 100%.
Wow, that hit me on so many levels, and I want to just say thank you for that. Funny enough, I am too going on a forgiveness journey, and I have shared that it has been fun. It has been a place where I'm finding peace, I'm finding joy, right? And so I've been listening to Louise Hay. She actually talks about seeing people as a child. Go see that person as a child. How would you treat that child? How would you embrace that child? That child needs love. Give that child a hug. And I can honestly tell you that visualization alone breaks your, like, it melts you. I love kids, right? I don't want, one day I hope to be blessed with kids of my own, but my goodness, like, wow. Thank you.
And I love Louise Hay. Louise Hay is actually the program who hosted my certification for clutter clearing. So I love that alignment right there. Good work. Good work, Chris-Beth.
That is awesome. Jaycel, it has been my privilege and honor to have you to open BizGrams. And this was a powerful session. And know that I love you. I value you. And I want people to know that, you know, as you're dealing with clutter in your life and you're seeking help, contact Jaycel. We will put her contact information in the chat. Have a conversation. She is, if you didn't get it here, dynamic, phenomenal, right? And the little time I've gotten to know her, a powerful woman, God-given woman, a divine woman. So I just want to thank you for taking out some time of your day, sharing this valuable insight, your journey, your story. And I look forward to connecting to you again in the future. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too. I love you all.